You don't learn to respond instead of react through force or discipline or some heroic burst of self-control. You learn it through the slow and painful realization that reacting has cost you too much of your peace, your clarity, your dignity, your ability to stay anchored when life shakes you, and somewhere in the quiet aftermath of another moment you wish you had handled differently. You begin to ask yourself whether there is another way to move through the world, not with panic or impulse, but with presence. The Stoics understood that the space between stimulus and response is where your entire life is shaped, and you start to feel that truth in your own body, because reacting makes you a servant to the moment, while responding makes you a steward of it. Reaction is immediate, noisy, fueled by old wounds and unprocessed fear. Response is steady, deliberate, born from a mind that refuses to be dragged by its first emotion. And learning this difference doesn't happen all at once. It happens in small moments where you catch yourself just before you break your own peace. Moments where you inhale long enough to let the feelings settle. Moments where you realize that not every emotion deserves an action, and not every trigger deserves your surrender. You begin to notice how your body tightens when you feel threatened, how your chest closes, how your thoughts speed up, how your words sharpen. And instead of trying to overpower that feeling, you start to observe it, the way a philosopher watches a passing cloud, curious, gentle, unmoved. You learn that reacting is your survival instinct, but responding is your conscious choice. And the more you choose response, the more you realize how few moments actually require urgency. Most of the chaos you feel comes from your mind rushing to protect an ego that doesn't need defending, a narrative that isn't fully true, a fear that isn't fully real. So you create space not by withdrawing, but by pausing, by asking yourself the quiet questions no one else hears. What is actually happening right now? What part of me feels threatened? Is this worth my peace? What outcome do I want to live with when this moment is over? And in that space, you discover that almost every moment feels different when held with clarity instead of panic. You learn that silence is not weakness. It is strategy. You learn that patience is not passivity. It is strength under control. You learn that calm is not the absence of emotion. It is the refusal to let emotion make your decisions. Responding becomes a practice of returning to yourself before you return to the world. And slowly, the habits that once controlled you lose their grip. The argument that once pulled you in no longer seduces you. The insult that once triggered you no longer defines you. The fear that once dictated your choices no longer leads you. You begin to understand that your peace is a responsibility, not a luxury, and protecting it means choosing intention over impulse, reflection over reaction, wisdom over instinct. The world may try to provoke you. People may try to pull you into their storms. Situations may try to drag you into urgency, but you learn to stay rooted, steady, grounded, not because you shut down, but because you wake up. You realize that responding doesn't make you slower, it makes you stronger. And it doesn't make you detached, it makes you deliberate. It is the difference between living at the mercy of circumstance and living in alignment with your principles. The Stoics believe that your greatest power is your ability to choose your next move, and you start to feel that power in your own hands when you stop letting emotion choose for you. You learn to breathe before you speak, observe before you act, understand before you decide, because a response is an act of creation, while a reaction is an act of surrender. And with each moment you choose response over reaction, your life grows quieter, your relationships grow healthier, your mind grows clearer. You stop saying things you regret, stop feeding conflicts that don't matter, stop letting temporary emotions create permanent consequences. You become someone whose calm is no longer shaken by noise, someone whose clarity is no longer dictated by chaos, someone who can feel deeply without losing themselves in the feeling. And maybe the most liberating realization of all is this: responding doesn't mean you feel less, it means you understand more. And that understanding becomes the foundation of a life lived not in fear, but in freedom.